All right. Hi, guys. This is Jeff from Kiss the Fish, and this is my first time going live on YouTube. So hopefully somebody will join. I wonder if anybody can hear me at this point. Hi, guys. It's Jeff from Kiss the Fish, and this is my first time going live. We're going to discuss today talking about all the different cool fishing lures I like to use. What helps me catch fish. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to my 250 subscribers. You know, I finally just hit that mark. I started back in May of 2020, so it's been a long run. It was a long year last year. Went out this morning, got skunked. It was 25 below wind chill, and it was cold. But you can't catch fish if you don't try. So I'm going to talk about my open water fishing a little bit. So open water for me, come springtime, I'm going to be primarily focusing on a lot of pickerel and a lot of cold water bass. They're still fat and feeding up, getting ready for that spawn. I'm going to be using a lot of people like slowing down, but I'm actually using a lot of action lures. I'm using a lot of daredevil spoons and spinner baits. You know, you'll see me out there. Oh God, this is a mess. I haven't opened this box up in a couple months. You'll see me out there with a lot of willow leaves. I'm going to be chucking a lot of willow leaf spinners. This is a Mepps Aglia Long number 4. It's not dressed. It has no bucktail on it. I like this lure because when you chuck it out there, it hits that water. See that weight? This thing is going to sink. And then you can either slowly roll it, or if you want to rip it, if you're going to try and pull fish up out of an area, that's your go-to. Another one that you're going to see me chucking a lot in different sizes. I fish a lot of the Black Fury from Mepps. They're a double bladed. This is a size 3, and this one's fully dressed. I really prefer that black and orange color. I've had good luck with it around here. The crawdads, crayfish, that early season color just seems to work for me. I actually prefer a size 0, and I'll fish that on like a trout rod, and I'll just rip that real slow, and you'd be surprised how many big bass will hit a size 0. You know, you get into an area where there's a handful of pickerel or a couple of schooling bass. I tell you what, that size 0, it's going to crush it every day. You know, I got a video on there where I'm fishing one of those size 0s, and I was hammering perch and well, what I would call kiver, but bluegill and pumpkin seed and bass, and it was on a river. Now, when I'm fishing on the river, I'm fishing a little different than I am fishing on the ponds when I'm fishing those spinners. You know, I'm fishing from the sides. You know, I'm going to be aiming towards cover and brush and trying to pull fish out towards the middle. When I'm in the pond, I'm looking for a lot of the deep stuff. You know, there's a swamp I like to fish where there's these little islands that they have these drop offs next to them. What I'll do is I'll chuck, say, like a Black Fury out there. It hits the water. I'm gonna let that thing sink until it's maybe a foot off the bottom, and I'm gonna rip it. And as soon as I start ripping it, that's usually when you get that hit. Or if you slow down, let's see, what else we got in here? Yeah, that's springtime. I'm going to be fishing a lot of those. You're going to see a lot of spoons coming out. You know, this is an older one. You can tell this one's seen a little bit of action. You know, red and white, I'm a big fan of. Let's see if I can find my favorite one on here. I've got boxes upon boxes upon boxes to show. But actually, this isn't my favorite, but this is of the same size. This is the 1 ounce. This is in black. I like the 1 ounce in the red and the white. Some of my biggest pickerel have come off that 1 ounce. The 3/4 ounce is a go-to if you want to just cram pickerel all day. You chuck that 3/4 ounce Daredevil out there. You know, it hits that water. You don't want to start ripping it as soon as it hits the water, because what will happen is there's the water top, and it's just going to stay around the water, and it's not going to sink. You let it hit that water, drops down a little bit, then you start pulling it, and you get that awesome action. What a lot of people will do is they'll actually put a swivel on the end of these so that they get that extra swing. I don't usually. It's just my preference. I like when they hit the water, I let them drop for a handful of seconds, and then I start retrieving them. The Daredevil, if you can sight fish these, you're gonna catch so many pickerel. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. So the way that the pickerel will go after these, if they pike too, pike will do the same thing. But a pickerel, they'll be chasing one of these up, but they won't attack it. So if you can see a pickerel coming at it, you just give it that little pause, let it sink for a sec, and start going again. I've had more hits this past year on that pause and start back up than probably anything else with these spoons. And I know a lot of people, they say don't stop and do that figure 8 at the boat. That figure 8, that kills them too. You just got to kind of figure out what the fish are doing, what they're feeding on, how they're feeding, not just what they're feeding on, but how they're feeding. Are they feeding slow? Are they feeding aggressive? You know, sometimes a spoon don't work and I'll go back to a spinner. Sometimes a spinner doesn't work and I'll go to a jerk bait. Sometimes a jerk bait doesn't work and I'll go to a lipless. You just got to feel it, see what's going on. A lot of people are going to say, where's the rubber? Well, of course, you know, I've got endless amounts of rubber baits, you know, and I start throwing these in more towards the heat of the summer during the daytime. You know, I'll throw a lot of number 5 Yamamoto's, the watermelon black and reds. I say number 5, the 5-inch. Some people like the 4, and some people like the larger size. For me, around here, 5 has worked good. Down to 3, the 3, it works good for when I'm doing smallmouth fishing. There's a river around here that's one of the few places I can get smallmouth near here, and I've done really well with that. Let's see what else I've got. I just started getting on Guggen baits towards the end of last year. I wasn't totally sold on them until I actually got out there and was fishing with them. You know, I was trying the bandito bug, and I thought these were actually, they were impressive. I didn't get them on video, but when I was chucking these out there, I was doing a little, you know, a jig and let it sink, watch the line, a jig and let it sink and watch the line. I'm not sure if that's the correct way to fish these, but that was killing them, man. I mean, that was absolutely killing them, and they were following it in. You know, it's a slow process the way I was doing it. I was probably 3 minutes for every cast. You know, cast, jig, wait, jig, wait, and they were hitting it. Hey, if they're gonna hit it, I'm gonna keep fishing it. Now, my favorite type of fishing, and is always going to be my favorite type of fishing, though, it's going to be nighttime, big bass, topwater fishing. You're going to see more videos of me where it's dark and you can't really tell what the heck I'm doing, but I'm usually chucking something massive, you know, and I've had so much fun in the past couple of years fishing with my brother. Doing a lot of nighttime fishing. We got really hooked on those Spro Rats. I mean, this one was the second one I got. The first one I ever got, I gave to my brother because he was having so much fun fishing, you know, seeing me catch these rats. And this one is the second one I got. It's been banged up. It's been split in half multiple times. It's been hit by, I mean, giant pickerel, big bass. It's been bounced off of everything, and it still catches fish. The tails on these, I mean, this I'm gonna show you how easy it is to fix these. You can break these pretty easily. You just twist them. It's just a toothpick that holds it in a little tiny hole. You take a new one, you put it in there. You take a toothpick, you shove it in, you snap off the end of the toothpick, boom, new tail. I've got that old one. I've got replacements of it because I absolutely love these rats. You know, and I've given away tons of them to friends. The gray one works good. I like the morning dawn one. That's really great for me. Spro make these larger. I don't even know if you'd call this a wake bait. This is the Spro, I believe it's the 80. It's the floating, okay, they call it a swim bait, the BBZ one. This is the floater. So this is supposed to be a floating trout. My largest bass last year came in on this. It was about 10:30 at night or so, and I just got out there and I chucked it, it hit the water, and it was slow, barely move and retrieve, just barely making a wake. And I heard that splash, and it sounded like someone took a 5-gallon bucket and went in the water, you know. And it was a 4-pound, I think it was a 4.5-pound bass, and it was the fight of the night, man. It was amazing. You know, they've got a hard body. It's three hard body pieces, and then one rubber on it. The whole tail is actually soft. So I'm not sure if that increases the hookup rate. Maybe I'll go with that. It sounds pretty good. If somebody knows why the back of these swim baits are actually rubber versus hard body, let me know. Leave it down in the comments. I want to know why they're actually rubber. You know, that first night I was fishing it slow, and then I started fishing these things fast. I was on a windy night, and I wanted to catch topwater, man. I wanted it so bad, and it wasn't working. And I chucked this out, and I was mad. I just ripped it back in. And as I'm ripping it in, wham! This big old bass come up and took it. And when it did, I was like, wait a sec, that's a slow bait. And it hit it while I was cruising. So I got that off the hook, and I chucked it back out there. And I'm not kidding. The very next cast, I'm pretty sure there's a video of this, but the very next cast, I'm ripping it in, bam, hits it again. And that one took almost the whole thing in its mouth. And that is a big bait, man. That's a big bait to take the whole thing. Now them Spro Rats, they come in different sizes. The one I was showing you before, that's a 50. These are a 30. A 30 and a 50, they're still floating. They also have a 25, which is like a slow, I don't know if it's a slow sink, but it stays right under the top of the water. And one of my last times out in a canoe, I had real good luck with that. Another real hot topwater bait. This should be in everybody's box. It's a split body Rapala. You know, if you don't have a split body Rapala in your box, you don't know what you're missing, man. These things work on so many different levels. If the fish are hitting top water, but on slow stuff, just barely pull this thing in. I'm talking like this is literally the speed you should be going. And what's going to happen is that little wake is going to trigger those bass to just come up and destroy this thing. This one's been, I mean, it's been munched on a bunch, and there's some teeth marks on there. You know, the other thing about this one, if you are finding that top water slow retrieve isn't working, you give it a tug. And that works for almost all these top water baits at night. But this one, if you start retrieving a little faster, it'll dive just a little bit. And any of those bass that wouldn't come, you know, above the surface, they'll hit it subsurface, and they'll hit it. It feels like they're hitting in the opposite direction. They just grab it, and they just want to fight. They just want to fight hard. All right. Last year, I was gifted a large tackle box that had a bunch of old stuff, and including these old Storm Wild Eye swim shad. And I liked them so much, The very first time I took them out, I mean, these things are like, they're like probably 15 years old. They smell like Play-Doh. They don't smell like a bait anymore. The hard eyes in them are gone. They're cracked to crap. And the first time I took one out of the package, I caught a massive pickerel. And then a few casts later, a massive bass. And then it was just on, baby. You know, I wanted those to be on that pole the whole rest of the day. So I went online and I was hoping that, you know, I could still get that color and that same shape and everything. And I found they still make them. They're a little more expensive now, but I say more expensive, you know, it was like $4 or $5. You know, I mean, the old package you were getting 6 of them for like $4 or $5. The new package, it's 3 of them, but it's 2021, man. What do you want? You're glad if you can get any kind of fishing gear at this point, you know. So yeah, I was working this Fire Tiger. Oh man, the way I was fishing these, I had a ton of luck on chucking it out there, letting it hit the water, and just sinking right down to the bottom, and then giving it a sec, like a dying shiner or something. After it hits the bottom, give it a tug, almost like jigging it, give it another tug, and then start retrieving. Sometimes before I give it that second tug, it was already, you know, I already had a hit. Other times, right as I started to retrieve and the lure started to go, well, yeah, lure started to go just a little bit upwards off the bottom, that was enough to initiate that strike. And I'll tell you what, man, I love it. Cool. I also, last year, I got into starting to make my own baits. I started making a lot of poppers. I got real big into making a lot of homemade poppers. And I had the thought in my mind to start actually producing these to sell. And I kind of got sidetracked with, you know, 2020 and everything going on, and started focusing on other stuff. You know, I got really into fly fishing about halfway through the year, and I went from making wooden lures into getting into the craft of fly tying. But I think this winter, you know, with it being so cold out, I didn't have fun today. I went out and I got cold, and that was it. It was pretty. It was beautiful. I chopped some holes. Then I had to dig out my tip ups because they were frozen to the ice. But you know, I got such a kick though out of making a lure and catching a fish on a lure that I made. Guys, if you haven't tried making your own lures, take the end of a broom handle and just cut out the center, drill a couple of screws in there, and tie on a hook. That's all it takes, man. You got yourself a popper. You know, put a little weight in the bottom of it and keep it so that the bottom, it stays the bottom and the top stays the top. Make them fancy, whatever you want to do. There's no better feeling than catching a fish on your own lure. All right, let's talk about something else here. Oh man, these topwater ducks, these are insane. So I fish a lot of places that are super weedy. They're real thick, and these are hard to fish because you can take this and just totally remove it and just use the top. But I like leaving this underside hook. You can also remove the top hook if you want, if you're feeling that your bottom is doing good. The way I like this is when it sets up, it grabs, and you know it's not going to lose that fish. And then you can just reset it, pop it back in there, and boom, that's it. Now the thing about where I fish being so weedy, the little paddles on the back, you know, they look like they swim great, right? And it acts like a whopper plopper when it's ripping across the water, you know, just. But unlike a whopper plopper, that I don't get tied up too much in the weeds while I'm ripping it. These things seem to get real tangled real easy in that thick stuff. And I'm not talking lily pads. I'm talking that invasive undergrowth weed that seems to be taking out a lot of our Massachusetts ponds pretty heavily. You know, you'll find it in your trolling motor, believe me. But I've found if I can fish this up against the pocket of weeds versus like in the wide open, if I can get this right up against the weeds and just slowly tug, stop, tug, tug, stop. That seems to initiate that bite. I haven't had a lot of luck with just straight retrieving these. I know some people do, just a retrieve and a dead stick. I haven't had much luck with that. My luck has come specifically from tug, stop, tug, tug, stop. And I'm stopping for anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds at a whack. I believe that, they sound hollow. I'm not sure if they're actually hollow or if they're a solid body plastic. I'll have to look into that and get back to you. I actually was enjoying the rats so much, I decided I would try and make one as well. So this was a homemade rat that I had made, and it is ugly as all heck, and it looks like some kind of machine, but it wiggles, makes a wake. I haven't caught anything on it. Next year, I'll keep at it. Try a different shape. Try something else. This is the lure that brought me my biggest bass, and I know a lot of topwater fishermen have these in their tackle boxes, but I don't know if they have this size of it in their tackle box. And this is the Jitterbug XL. If you have ever fished a jitterbug, you know that awesome that you get in the water. Well, this thing does it, except it does it in like pop, 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 pop. Look at that bite mark. Okay, fish love this thing. It's awesome, right across the Jitterbug logo. You can't really beat that. So my biggest fish came from this right here, and it was just this. It was a 5-pound, 4-ounce, 22-inch largemouth at about midnight. I know that's not a huge bass for guys from down south, but up here in Massachusetts, that's a big bass, and for me, that's my biggest bass, my biggest personal best. And it was about 12:30 at night, and I'd been chucking everything, and I wasn't catching anything. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna chuck the XL. I chucked it right near where I believed there was lily pad set. Fishing in pitch black. I don't have the headlamp on until I got a fish, but I chucked it right up against where that lily pad set was, and as soon as it started to go, I heard splash, and I went, huh. So I stopped, and I gave it a tug, and I started retrieving it again, and it was one of the largest bucket mouth that ever come up and just destroyed this. It was just a full whoosh, and it was stripping line out of my bait caster. It had my pole bent down at my hand. I was like, holy crap, this is amazing. I have nobody here to land this with me. No one's gonna believe me. And all I could think about the whole time was keep that pole down, keep that pole down. And it was a long cast. So it was a good long retrieve. But I got it in, and it was a 5-pound, 4-ounce, 22-inch largemouth. And that went on to swim for another day. That was the bass of my lifetime so far. And I can't wait to catch more bass like that. I've been very, very fortunate this past couple of years between fishing with my brother and finding a bunch of new places by myself too. We've hooked up on multiple bass over 3 pounds, multiple bass over 4 pounds. I've seen him hook up on a couple of bass over 5 pounds, and he's had bigger bass than that. I'm so blessed to live in an area where anywhere you want to go fishing, there's going to be big fish. I mean, look at the bite mark on that. You can't really beat things like that. It's fun when you start hooking up on fish that have size to that. So, in the middle of the summer, I'm also fishing a lot on the micro rod. You're going to see a lot of these tiny little spinners. This is a Oh, it's not going to come to me right now. Well, never mind. I ain't going to tell you what it is. A lot of Rooster Tails. This is actually a small version of that Storm swim bait. This is it's like a 1-inch. And then I got a little Rapala. No, this is the Blue Fox. This one is a little Blue Fox. It looks like a little Rapala. And that was the name of that lure that I was trying to show you before. Yeah, the Blue Fox. This is a deep runner. They have the deep running ones and they have the shallow running ones. All right, so we get back into the fall, okay? Fall comes around. I'm going to start fishing a lot of stuff like that, you know, a lot of the swim shad stuff. I am not the best person to fish jerk baits. I have not had the most luck with them, but if I'm going to chuck one, it's probably going to be something along this size. All right. I have had better luck with chatterbaits and jigs with a trailer, you know, something set up like that. Fall time, you're gonna slow it back down, you know. Gonna get your lipless going on, just real slow. This is actually one that I got out of that tackle box that was given to me, and it's real cool. It looks like a small bass, and one of the last times I went out with my brother, we ended up hooking up on doubles where I was chucking this and he was chucking, I believe he was chucking a chatterbait with a, oh, what was he chucking on the back of it? Some kind of trailer on the back of it. And he hooked up on a real nice pickerel, and I ended up hooking up on a nice pickerel as I was just talking about, oh, maybe we could get doubles. Bam! We pulled it in and we both had nice fish in the boat at the same time. You know, it's nice when that happens. It doesn't happen too often, but when it does, it's nice. All right. Now, one that I've hooked up on a massive bass last year, and I didn't give this lure enough attention. I wish I did. Is the Mepps Aglia Long in tandem. I wish I gave this lure more attention last year. It'll be given more attention this year, I promise. But you can see it's like the Black Fury, whereas it's got the black and the orange. It's a single blade though, but it has 2 sets of monster treble hooks. And I was out one day topwater fishing near a down tree, and I hooked up on a nice bass, pulled it in, and I was getting skunked after that for quite a while. So I said, you know, I'll chuck out that new spinner I got. So I tried this, I hooked it right up against the log. I was like, oh crap, here we go. Now I'm going to lose that lure. And I pulled it maybe like 10 feet, and then this big shadow come up, and it grabbed the hold of it, and it gave me one of those yanks where you feel like poles coming out of your hand. And I got it on film for that, like that 3 seconds where you could see it come up in that big flash. And it had to have been a good 3-4 pounder. And it somehow shook the lure. And then I just never casted it again. You know, I think this year you're going to see me spending some time chucking this one out there quite a lot. So then enter the winter. You know, wintertime, I'm on the ice, man. I'll be out there with tip ups, or as we call them locally, tilts, and I'll be fishing primarily for perch. You know, and I'll be right off the bottom with a shiner. Or if I'm bass fishing, I'm going to be sometimes a foot off the bottom, up to right under the ice. You know, you just got to find where those fish are sitting. When I'm jigging, I'm probably going to be using a lure called Swedish Pimple, and I'll be tying that on to probably 2-pound test. And the reason I use a 2-pound test, like I said, I'm just fishing for the perch. I'm not fishing out there with a jig stick for monster bass. Of course, the first fish that I hooked up on with a jig stick this year was a big fat pickerel on 2-pound test, and it screamed my line, and it was awesome. I am so happy that I was able to hook up on that pickerel. But I'll tell you what, 2-pound test on a pickerel is probably not what you're going for. But so I think for right now, that's gonna about wrap it up. You know, I can't wait for 2021 to really get rolling. You know, this cold snap, this is going to give us some good thick ice. You know, I'll have more videos going out there on the ice fishing. And when spring starts rolling around, you're going to see me out there in that pre-spawn. You're going to see a lot of oranges, a lot of blacks. You know, we got a lot of the crawdads, the crayfish around here. And that seems to be the color that hits real hard. You'll see some reds, a lot of spoons, a lot of spinners. Summertime comes around, you're going to see a lot of topwater. You're going to see a lot of jitterbugs, a lot of poppers, a lot of whopper ploppers. You know, I didn't even show a whopper plopper, but they're in there. You know, before I go, there is a couple of crazy baits I got to show. You know, I ended up getting, oh, how did I even skip this box, guys? I'm sorry, I can't go yet. I got to show off this box a little bit. You know, one of those lures that I've hooked up on a ton of fish, and I thought it was a goofy lure, and that's why I bought it, was the Savage Gear snake. I can't even believe this thing catches as many fish as it does. I mean, it's got the beads in it, you know, the ball bearings, so you can hear that. And you can tie on to either up here or down here. If you tie on down here, it's going to stay on top water. If you tie on up under the mouth, it's gonna dive it down and it'll come back up, and dive it down and come back up. It swims amazing. I've taken this one under bridges and just chucked it and fed it back off of the current, and the bass just go crazy for it. You know, I can't even believe I missed frogging. Wow. So you're going to see me throw a lot of the paddle tail frogs. You know, these paddle tail frogs, this is a scum frog. And this was probably one of the ones that I had the most luck with this year. I have a hard time with the hookup ratio on this one, but I have a crud load of hits on this thing. You know, it's a super soft body. A lot of the small frogs I do well with too. This is one of the black ones. Let's see. This is one that I just picked up right towards the end of season of bass season, frogging season. It's huge and it casts a country mile. And everybody's tackle box should look like this once in a while. The whopper ploppers and jitterbugs tied to everything. This has got to be, all right, craziest lure in your tackle box. What is it? Because this is mine. A topwater bat. And I believe this is the Savage Gear bat. The action on this thing is ridiculous. It is the most ridiculously amazing action. I mean, it does a full paddle like it's trying to do like some crazy, you know, swimming move. It's supposed to, I guess, imitate a bat that gets stuck in the water. But this is one I gotta watch out for when I'm in the boat with my brother, because there's hooks flying around. And this thing, it's got this treble on the back with the, you know, all these awesome feathers and treble underneath. And I don't know why, but this has been the one that's come the closest to us getting hooked up multiple times. And we've tangled poles with this one a few times, going back and getting snagged up. But this one, the Savage Gear Batman, this is the silliest lure, and it gets the most amazing action, I think, out of any of my lures that I've shown you today. The one lure that caught me the most fish this past year, the most big fish, I should say the Black Fury size 0 caught me the most fish this past year. But the lure that caught me the most fish, topwater, hands down, is the size 30 Spro Rat. Now you'll notice this one doesn't have a tail on it. With the 30, I found that without the tail, I actually like it better. I was replacing a tail multiple times on it, and I get more strikes without the tail. I don't know if that's, you know, a legitimate thing or it's just something that I seem to believe. but I've had so much better luck without the tail on it. I cast this one out there and I let it hit the water. I let it sit there for probably 5-10 seconds. And then you just start slow rolling it back in. And I'm talking like that fast, dead stick. Let it sit there. A lot of times, right on that sitting point, if you let it sit for 5-10 seconds, the bass will come up and hit it. As soon as you start retrieving it again, though, that's the other strike time. You know, they see it going away and they come up and they grab that thing. But this, hands down, bar none, the Rat 30. This caught me more fish this year than any other lure. But yeah, you're gonna see a lot of jitterbugs of different colors and shapes too. Those are a staple in any topwater lure box, along with hula poppers, which is where I got the idea for the type of poppers that I am doing. I'm not even gonna be able to show you these hula poppers because I've got like 6 of them tied together right now with some MEPs. Anywho, thank you guys for sticking around. Like I said, I can't wait to get some more action out there this year. I gotta pick up some more batteries for my GoPro because I don't know about any of you other anglers out there that do these YouTube channels, but you get out there and the batteries die right about the time the fish start hitting, and it is just embarrassing. I mean, you're trying to take a battery and get the last 5% out of it. Get the last 5% out of it. Oh my God, the fish are hitting. What are you doing? So I'm gonna get some more batteries. Get some better mic stuff. Maybe get a nice lapel mic, and hey, I'll catch you out on the water. Thanks for sticking around, and if you like this, hit that like, maybe subscribe to me. That'd be sweet. I'll see you guys later. And my live stream won't end.